This video was definitely a long time coming. For those who are new to this channel or maybe heard about this situation years ago, this is an update on the situation with the ex-YouTuber Ciel Star. My first video was made right after Ciel Star was arrested, and a lot has occurred since that last video was made. I'll be providing updates on the situation from the beginning up to now, and towards the end including things that I hadn't covered during the initial situation. With that said, there is a bit of a disclaimer. First of all, this video will be talking about the harm of children in this video. If you're someone who can't handle that subject, then that's perfectly fine, and feel free to go elsewhere, and remember to take care of yourself because this is a very serious situation. Second, Ciel Star is a trans man, and I will be respecting pronouns in this video. I don't respect him because, as you'll see, he's a dog shit person. Lastly, Ciel Star's legal name and other information regarding his case is all public information. However, due to YouTube's guidelines as well as my own morals, I will not be showing his real name in these videos or dead naming. Additionally, I want to say that I'm not an investigator. If you want to look up this information yourself, I suggest searching it for yourself. There's a Tumblr account here who was continuously giving updates over the years and is friends and associates with one of the victims. I would also like to give credit to that Tumblr user who raised awareness for this trial throughout the years, who goes by the name Ultra Feral or Nasteboy in my original video, who was a massive help in this video for providing both personal testimonies, sharing victim accounts, and even attending the trial for this case. Seriously, without Ultra Feral, I don't think any of us would have known what happened to Ciel Star today. Another huge thank you to one of my best friends, Ophelia, for helping me out with this video. We're both very passionate about this case, and their skill in research and debate was a huge help with this video. You could take this as a collab just because they helped me massively with the script here. Now, let's recap this case. Back in the late 2010s was a YouTuber who rose to infamy for their vocal impressions of voice actress Brina Palencia, who voiced Ciel Phantomhive in Black Butler's English dub. He was best known for his work with CDawg VA, a voice actor that at the time was also known for his impressions of J. Michael Tatum's English dub of Sebastian Michaelis. The two would collaborate as business partners, and the reason why I say this is very important for later. Thanks to CDawg's promotion via his massively popular Sebastian videos, Ciel Star would blow up through their collaborations and begin to make his own Ciel Phantomhive content. To provide an example, some of his videos included a friend of his whose voice imitated Elizabeth Mitford, and in true 2010s fashion, rap battles. Additional content was Ciel Star's ability to sing as both sets of the Phantomhive twins. He did covers that fit Ciel Phantomhive as a character, such as More Than a Spare, an outtake song from the first Frozen movie, and a cover of Evelyn Evelyn by Evelyn Evelyn. He would have his family or best friend delete his account though, so I believe any other content is lost media by now. However, despite his popularity, red flags were waving in the sky ominously. How many of you know what kinning is, or have you ever heard of the term otherkin? Well, to provide a definition from dictionary.com, otherkinning is of or relating to the belief or feeling that one's soul or essence is partly or fully something other than human, such as believing one's core identity to be a mythological creature, fictional character, or animal. According to Cambridge University, the term otherkin was coined by a contributor to Elkine Digest. I got tired of typing elf, dragon, orc, etc. kin and just used otherkin, wrote Torn. As access to the internet spread beyond the professional middle class, the otherkin community multiplied and diversified. The first decade of the 21st century witnessed a huge diversification in terms of assumed sexual and gender preferences and identities, especially once otherkin groups migrated to the blog hosting website Tumblr. Now, you probably wonder why I just said all of that and how it coincides with what I'm about to tell you. But back in the mid-2010s, Tumblr and other social media platforms were sprawling with otherkin. Otherkin did not want anyone else to be a specific animal, object, part of nature, or, in this case, fictional character. The no doubles part this time was rampant, and Ciel Star was one of those kinnies. To continue, I will be generalizing based on experience from my time on Tumblr and dealing with individuals like this in the communities I've belonged to most, which are likely outliers within their community, but based on experience, the kinning mentality is often extremist. To further explain, it's to the point where it's more common to find people who believe they are that fictional character rather than just relating to them, even going so far as to allow people to call them by that name of that fictional character. I've met extremist kins before who genuinely believe they are their fictional character and would go into depressive episodes or panic attacks if anyone describes having a similar interest or relatability to that fictional character. The reason I bring this up is because Ciel Star kinned Ciel Phantom Hive, or at least did up until his arrest. This is further provided in an interview where CDogVA talks about his encounter with Ciel Star and him mentioning that he should be addressed by Ciel.
They never turned off the persona.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
You couldn't like not call them that because they would be like, what the fuck?
May I remind you that in his 20s, Ciel Star was genuinely sitting here believing he was the reincarnation of a 13-year-old child. According to witness and victim testimony, this was not all that uncommon. He would go as far as to write on old Tumblr posts about he had dreams of his past life at the Phantom Hive Manor, where he admitted in the same post he was watching Black Butler before bed. And if you know anything about dreams, you know it's the brain doing a freestyle remix of everything you were thinking or doing that day. However, these red flags were completely ignored or dismissed by the community. Many didn't even know he had a Tumblr or simply believed this was fan service roleplay. This was mainly due to where his fan base came from, which was in fact from Tumblr. And back in the day, Tumblr was known for these kind of fan servicey roleplays. Biggest example is the Harry Potter community, where you had a bunch of guys do gifs of cutesy smirks or whatever, so these kinds of fangirls flocked to Ciel Star. However, Tumblr wasn't the only platform Ciel Star ventured, rather he was also on Instagram. There's an anonymous testimony from someone that was on Instagram that he was not only abusive to an ex-boyfriend, but also predatory behavior in this roleplay group chat. This is further evidenced from leaked text showing he used the ship of Sebastian and Ciel to groom children in these chats. Before I go into further detail about the trial and additional information, I feel the need to highlight an often overlooked aspect by supporters of Ciel Star. One that came to light was, this was not the first time Ciel Star had been arrested for a crime with a minor. When Ciel Star was 18, he was arrested for inappropriately touching a 14-year-old girl and had the charges dropped, likely because he had just turned 18. However, this time his 15-year-old victim was not backing down, and I'm really proud of her for being so brave in this situation, but for now we'll have to talk about what ultimately led to the downfall and later conviction of Ciel Star. On April 23, 2019, a Tumblr user by the name of, as previously mentioned, Nasteboy, currently now changed to Ultraferal, would make a post on Tumblr with the title, PSA, Ciel Star, a popular fandom YouTuber specifically for Kuroshitsuji, has been arrested for 2 felonies regarding the abuse of minors. The post garnered immediate attention from the Black Butler community on Tumblr, and being in the crowd of fans, most of us couldn't believe this was real, but it was, and would only continue to progress as the days went by. Thanks to Ultraferal as well, the public was now aware that Ciel Star went by Evan. Apparently around the time of his last video, he got really into the musical Dear Evan Hansen, in which he claimed he was quite literally Evan Hansen, showing that Ciel Star has a history with patterns in regards to the characters he latches onto deeply. On the following day, April 24th, 2019, CDogVA would release a statement. It's a very long tweet, and I don't want to dive too much into CDog here, even though, you know, his fame is what unfortunately caused Ciel Star to be so popular, but, you know, I have it here scrolling throughout the videos, so if you want, you can read it here, or even just go to his Twitter, because linked down below will be all my resources and Twitters that Ophelia and I found down below. Many fans of Sea-Dog were under the impression that Sea-Dog and Ciel Star were actually friends, but little did everyone know it was quite the opposite. They were only business casual, and their interactions outside of work were slim to none. In fact, Sea-Dog talks about his first and only encounter with Ciel Star and one of his likely victims here.
So I met them once in person after about a year and a half of not speaking to them, because they were like, I'm in London, I lived in London, they were like, want to hang out, and I was like, fine, we'll meet up for afternoon tea as you do. So they turned up, and there was like 2 other people there who looked very, very young. Like,
Okay.
Like I asked one of them, I was like, how old are you? Because it was really weird as well, because they were like attached to them.
Right.
And I thought, that's really weird. Like they would take it in turns holding on to the person.
Right.
I thought, wow, that's really sus. I remember asking one of these kids, I was like, how old are you? And they were like, 18. And I remember thinking in my back of my head, you don't look 18. You look like 16. And I was like, is your parent okay with you coming here alone? And they were like, yeah, it's okay. And I was like, all right, whatever. And it was really weird. I went home. I never spoke to them again because I was really creeped out. I left early because I made an excuse that I had to go.
Yeah.
It was just weird.
Yeah.
There was just like kids basically with him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't sign up for this.
The victim allowed some texts dating back to 2012 to be released. Some of these texts detailed the horrific encounters with Ciel Star, some of which he mentioned he would go to jail and they would be the cause of his death if anyone ever found out about their relationship, only further silencing the victim. The victim would graphically detail the encounter with Ciel Star and the things he managed to do to them that I don't feel comfortable saying in this video. This is also why I'm not showing the text messages for the same reason. Additionally, there were pictures released of the 2 of them where the victim is clearly a minor with an adult Ciel Star. One thing he liked to do was lie about the ages of his victims, saying that 12-year-olds were actually 16. In an encounter that Sea-Dog had, he briefly mentioned that a guest Ciel Star brought with him was younger than the impression that Ciel Star gave him. Of course, he had no choice but to brush it off and go with their word. That would only further add to the gruesome reality of the trial. In fact, both on Ultra Feral and some deep diving done by some friends and I at the time, there were a lot of people who came forward expressing their red flags about Ciel Star. Some witnesses mentioned he was flirtatious with teenage girls at conventions, oftentimes using his Ciel voice. Since he was in the setting of a convention, he was able to hide under the guise of fan service. To add on, he always wore his powder blue Ciel Phantom Hive wig, and his one hoodie from Hot Topic meant to look like Ciel's coat that he allegedly never washed, so he smelled disgusting. This was part of how he managed to trap some of his victims. As everything happened, we waited for the court system to process everything. It's important to note that the court takes their time during this because they don't want to miss any substantial evidence, witness testimonies, victims' rights advocacy, and much more. It goes beyond court processing and paperwork. It also doesn't help that most criminal trials were delayed in late 2019 and all of 2020 due to the pandemic. Unfortunately, he wasn't in prison this whole time. He was under house arrest in New York, where he wasn't allowed to leave the state or go on the internet, as he was deemed by the courts to be a danger to children. However, it's been alleged he was online, but it's unknown exactly where. According to some, it was on Roblox, while others say it was Discord RP servers. One reason it's not known is because he had a friend that he was living with who massively believed his innocence. It is likely that this could have been the friend, but we're still unsure. When court hearings did take place, it was his lawyer constantly trying to delay the case or take pleas. In one particular case from someone who attended the trial, apparently his lawyer tried to say he developed a mental disorder from bumping his head on a pole when he was 18, and basically used that plea for insanity. The irony is that the disorder he claimed to have in court is impossible to occur from a bump on the head as an adult. Yet he was evaluated by a doctor who said otherwise. Ciel Star ended up verbally agreeing to the guilty plea. When he was asked by the judge multiple times if he was guilty of all charges, he said yes. When asked these questions, he was of sound mind and body. Ultimately, the judge could have given him a 40-year sentence and actually agreed he deserved more based on the evidence. But due to his mental health problems, the charges were at most what they could get him. This means that he has to see mental health professionals, testing for substances, wearing an ankle monitor, and prohibited from being on the internet at all. However, legally, if he were to mess up while under his decade-long house arrest sentence, he could be facing 20 to 40 years in prison. Though this didn't give him an insanity plea, and he was thankfully found guilty in court, he wasn't apparently allowed to go to prison due to his middle ground for the insanity plea. So he's basically under house arrest for the next 10 years. On the plus side, this means Ciel Star is officially on the registry for his crimes, which means he can't get anywhere near children without being in serious trouble, so I'm really glad for that. While I and many others wanted prison time for him, including the judge on the case, at least some justice was served in knowing he can never be near children again, or it's back to prison for him, and he's likely miserable being stuck in his house all day basically for the next 10 years. A testimony from me personally is that I actually knew one of Ciel Star's biggest Patreon supporters. By biggest Patreon supporters, I literally mean it. This woman gave literally thousands of dollars to hang out in New York. Despite giving him over $4,000 at the time I knew her, he actually hardly acknowledged her and didn't even give her a thank you or even a reach out of kindness. I'm not saying he had to be besties with her, but from my experience, when someone is that generous, I would think it's natural to want to give that kindness back because you want to thank them back as much as you can. I know when you guys even donate just $3 to my Ko-fi, or sometimes some of you guys are incredible enough to give me $100 somehow, it makes me want to reach out to all of you and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Instead, he hardly acknowledged her, acted coldly, and only ever talked to her to ask for money. Now, this person I had beef with when they were online, so ignoring that, she was literally completely engulfed in Ciel Star's Kool-Aid, and to me, I think it gives an insight into how he treated his fan base, who, according to a friend of his, paid so much that his Patreon completely covered rent alone for his home state. This Patreon fan I'm talking about, by the way, also believes Ciel Star was framed and that they had the wrong guy, so I guess he was likely in some Patreon server feeding his fans Kool-Aid. If he was, because remember, he had a best friend that was vehemently defending him. Since this was a case that a good friend of mine and I followed for many years, we decided to provide resources to help with issues in regards to victimization online. On screen right now, I'm sure you can see are the links provided, and the links will also still be provided in the description along with all resources used in this video. I wanted to say that my heart goes out to the victims and anyone who wasn't able to come forward about their treatment with Ciel Star. I hope that you were all able to find some sort of closure and relief now that he's finally convicted. As always, please let me know down below in the comments what you think. I just ask that I don't get requests to tackle more people like Ciel Star. I try to distance myself from content like this because unless I find it's way too important to keep my mouth shut about, especially with circles I'm in like Black Butler. Because some stuff just ends up in a cycle where I say something and then that thing I said happens and then I have to repeat myself again. And I don't want to do that kind of repeating cycle for my channel. Hence why you haven't seen me do any Yandere Simulator or Yandere Dev updates on my channel. It's literally the same thing we've all been saying for a decade, so I'd honestly just be repeating myself at this point. Still, you guys let me know down below what you think of this video, and feel free to share your experiences or even thoughts on the situation down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. If any of you would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!